Have you ever been told that if you have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, you're too loose to have tight muscles? At first glance, that seems logical. Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is a connective tissue disorder where the collagen isn't built quite the same way as it is in most people. Because fascia, ligaments, tendons, and other connective tissues rely heavily on collagen, people with EDS often experience increased joint mobility, instability, fatigue, pain, and frequent injuries. So if everything is loose, why do so many people with EDS feel incredibly tight? That's one of the things I see over and over again in my practice. Many people with EDS have general laxity throughout their body, but they also have some very specific areas that feel like they are all locked up, restricted, or painfully tight. It seems contradictory, but when you understand how the body compensates, it starts to make sense. Imagine you're driving a car and the steering alignment is out. The car pulls to one side. As a result, you grip the steering wheel tighter and have to wrestle it just to drive straight. The tighter grip isn't the original problem. It's your body's attempt to create stability when stability is lacking somewhere else. The human body does something very similar. When joints don't feel stable, the nervous system often responds by increasing muscle tension around those joints. It's the body's emergency stabilization system. The muscles tighten up to create support that the connective tissues aren't providing effectively. The problem is that these muscles can end up working overtime, day after day, year after year. Eventually they become exhausted, sore, and restricted. This is why many people with EDS can simultaneously be very flexible and very tight. I've worked with clients who can easily bend their thumb to their forearm, yet their neck feels like concrete. Or their shoulders are hypermobile, but their upper back is locked up. Or their hips move excessively, while their low back constantly feels tight and guarded. The body is trying to create stability wherever it can find it. Another analogy I like to think of is a camping tent. A tent needs some flexibility to withstand the wind. But if the poles become too flexible and floppy, the guy lines have to work much harder to keep everything upright. In many people with EDS, certain muscles and fascial structures become those guy wires. They are constantly pulling, bracing, and compensating. Over time, that creates discomfort and restriction. This is where gentle myofascial release can be particularly valuable. Traditional approaches focus on stretching tissues that already have plenty of mobility. But many people with EDS don't necessarily need more flexibility. They need better balance. They need less unnecessary tension. They need nervous system regulation. They need their nervous system to feel safe enough to stop gripping so hard. Gentle myofascial release uses sustained, gentle pressure to help the body release areas of excessive tension without forcing movement or aggressively stretching tissues. Rather than trying to push through resistance, we listen to what the tissue is doing. We work with the body's protective patterns instead of fighting them. For many people with EDS, that gentler approach is important because their tissues can be more sensitive and reactive. The goal isn't to make loose joints looser. The goal is to help reduce the compensatory tension that has developed around those joints. When the body isn't spending so much energy holding itself together, people often report feeling more comfortable, moving more easily, and experiencing less strain. Now, it's important to understand that gentle myofascial release doesn't change the underlying genetics of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. It's not a cure. But it can be a useful tool for helping manage some of the secondary patterns that often develop as the body adapts to instability. In my experience, many people with EDS spend years being told that because they're flexible, they shouldn't feel tight. Yet, what they experience in everyday life tells a very different story. They know they feel restricted. They know they feel sore. They know certain areas feel like they're constantly working. When we start looking at those tight areas as compensation rather than contradiction, the picture becomes much clearer. The body isn't confused. It's doing its best to create stability with the tools it has available. And sometimes a gentle approach can help those overworked tissues finally let go of some of that burden. If you have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and struggle with persistent tightness, pain, or areas that feel constantly restricted despite being highly flexible, you should understand that those tight spots are actually compensation patterns and that it is very possible to do something about it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out.